everyone, my name is Squeaking and I am here to teach you how to fish. We're going to go through every aspect of fishing in my time at Portia. We're going to teach you how to fish, what's involved in fishing, where you get the fishing poles, how much experience you get for fishing, what each fish is worth, and where each type of fish is in each individual fishing spot. Let's get started. Let's start with the very basics of fishing. Obviously, you need to have a fishing pole of some type, and you're also going to need lures, which in my time at Portia is caterpillars. So let's begin. First of all, you want to click the E to start fishing. Now, I'm going to mess up a few times in order to give you an idea of what fishing is like. I'm going to show you every part of this. I'm currently using the beginning fishing rod, but there is also the classic fishing rod and the master fishing rod. But we'll start with the beginning fisher rod. You click E, and you cast in. As you can see, it pops up with a little indication saying, hey, that little exclamation point saying, I've got a bite. Now, obviously, I didn't choose to click the button to do it, so it took my bait after a while. Now, as you can see, next to that little indication, that little exclamation point, that there's a little mouse button with the indication of the the left mouse button. You just click that when it comes up, and you will catch the fish, or at least hook the fish, I should say. Now, also, as you can see, there's this little globe over that I have here. Over here it's red, over here it's white. You want to keep this globe on the fish as much as possible, because if you have it off, it turns red and it starts to fill in. You don't want that to fill up. If it fills up too much, as you can see, it's slowly, I'm going to lose the fish if I'm not careful. I need to be careful, and I lose the fish. So you want to make sure you maintain that circle over the fish at all times. Now, reeling it in is the same button as you used to hook the fish, which in my case is the left mouse button. And if you push the button, it pulls it in. You see how when I pull it in, this indication over here, this number that's here, gets smaller. See that? I'm just doing little clicks. That's how much further you need to pull the fish in before you land it. Also, if you notice that when you're pulling the fish in, I'm going to go ahead and hook another fish here. Now, if you'll notice, when I'm pulling the fish in, that little indicator there's a little red dot in the middle that gets larger when I'm pulling in the fish as well. It's not just when it's outside the fish, it's also when I'm pulling the fish. So you do need to be a little careful about that indicator, because if you're not careful, you will lose the fish. Now, I'm currently fishing with catfish, and they are the easiest fish in the game to get. But as you can see, frogfish are a lot harder. I try to pull this in, and that circle gets bigger a lot faster. Also, you may notice that with some fish, this white circle, which started off as being really big, has gotten a lot smaller. This is because this is a more difficult fish. The more difficult the fish, the more tricky it can be. And in the case of frogfish and the other medium level fish, your little circle gets smaller. Don't worry, as long as you keep your circle hovering over the fish, you won't lose it. And if you're concerned about breaking your line or losing the line, you can just stop clicking on that button, and it will, the red dot will shrink back down. Now we're over here at the Bassanio Falls fishing spot, and the fish here are much more difficult. There are golden salmon, which are about as simple as those catfish are over at the other spot. But this has the Goliath, which is easily the most difficult fish in the game. And let me show you exactly, I'll use this to show you how to deal with, okay, now you see when I'm reeling it in how that circle gets bigger, but if I stop reeling it in, the circle shrinks. So what you want to do is, when it comes to difficult fish like this, you want to keep your circle over the fish as much as possible, and you want to give your red indicator in the middle a chance to shrink. So you want to do this in small bits. You want to push down on the mouse button in slow but steady clicks, not quickly like this. Whoa. Not rapidly, but just in slow, steady clicks. Just press, release. Let it reduce, press, release. Whoop. And all it takes is a little bit to lose those Goliaths. So with the beginning fishing rod, it's very difficult to reel in the Goliaths. So if you lose Goliaths, don't worry. It's completely normal. Goliaths are very difficult. But if you pull in, but then release and let that circle relax, you're going to ease the tension on the fishing pole and give yourself a chance to be able to pull it in the rest of the way. Now, every time you cast the rod in, it costs you 6 stamina to pull it in. And bear in mind that the amount of time that's passing while you're fishing here is still going. If you look down in the right corner and you see your time, it says 19:24 for me. Actually, it's not 19:24. Time is still passing. So the longer it takes for me to pull this in, the more time is going to pass. Now, that's not a big deal, especially when it comes to pulling in these giant Goliaths and the more difficult fish, because sometimes you just need that extra time to pull it in. Don't worry. Don't fret about the time. As long as you haven't lost the fish, you're still fine. I'm going to pull this thing in. Now watch my time go from 19:24 to nearly a half an hour later. Let's try an easier fish. This one's really easy. I can just pull this thing right in. So 2024 to 2029. As you can see, time does continue passing, and you will lose 6 stamina on each cast. Just something to bear in mind, but it's not something to fret about. It should be noted, however, that no matter what, even if you're pulling out here, you're still pulling the fish in. As you can see, we're at 389 right now. Out here, pull it in. We're still pulling the fish in. So it's not wasted effort to pull it out here. It's just that you have a larger chance of actually losing the fish. Because after all, if you get to red, you lose the fish. Now, a lot of people believe that the time of day makes a difference when it comes to fishing. And in fact, it really doesn't. The time of day doesn't matter what type of fish you're going for, whether the size is bigger or smaller, whether they're more difficult to fish or not, whether they're more valuable or not. None of it matters. The time of day is consistent throughout your entire fishing experience. Let's talk about fishing rods. There are 3 types of fishing rods in the game. There is the basic beginner's fishing rod, which you get through a quest. You basically have to make one for one of the Hulu brothers, and then you can make a second one for yourself. Then there's the classic fishing rod, which you will not be able to build until you get your work table to level 2. And then there is the master fishing rod, which is only available through completing the fish challenge in the museum. Now behind me is the fish collection portion of the museum. Now there is, on the wiki, it talks about how you need to collect one of every type of emperor fish, but it also talks about an emperor king salmon. Now there is no emperor king salmon in the game. In fact, the emperor king salmon has actually been changed into the Emperor Gladiator fish. So, in order to get the master fishing rod, you must collect all of the Emperor fish in the game and put them into your fishing tank here. Once you have, it'll take about a day or so, but you should get your master fishing rod in the mail. Now, what's the essential difference between the 3 different rods? Well, it comes down to tension on the line. In other words, how fast that red dot fills up your white globe. The basic fishing rod, of course, is the weakest in those terms, followed by the classic fishing rod, and then, of course, the best fishing rod, the master fishing rod, allows for the most forgiveness in terms of tension on the line. Now, that seems a little confusing, so let me try to explain it by actually showing you the difference. Now here we have a Goliath hooked on a basic beginner fishing line. Now I want you to pay attention to how fast the red dot fills up the white globe here on the basic beginner fishing line. See how fast that was? It fills up incredibly fast. There's not much forgiveness when it comes to the basic beginner fishing line. We'll go ahead and pull him in, but as you can see, it takes a lot more effort and a lot more caution to try to pull in such a difficult fish as the Goliath. But it is possible, it just takes a lot more patience. Now we have the classic fishing rod in hand now, and let's look at the difference. You see how I've got a little bit more give? I can hold down that button a little bit longer and pull him in for longer periods of time. It's a little bit more forgiving, and it's not quite so difficult to pull those harder fish in. Once again, we're on the Goliath, and we're using the master fishing rod this time. Look at the difference. Just pull. I can pull it for much longer periods of time. There's much more. There's much more durability with the fishing rod, and it's a lot less likely to snap. Let me show you again with a little bit easier fish. Now here we have the golden salmon. This is probably one of the easiest fish in the game. I'm using the basic beginning fishing rod here, and I'm just gonna hold down the button and pull it straight in. I want you to watch that red fill up. See how it was filling up pretty quickly? Now let's switch to the classic fishing rod. Now we're going to go ahead and pull straight on it with the classic fishing rod, and let's see the difference. See how much slower it is? It's much more forgiving. Now let's try the master fishing rod. And we do a straight pull, and it's even more forgiving. Can you see the essential difference of what we're talking about here now? Hopefully that's helpful. Alright, so as you can see, I currently have the king version of a fish on my line. And as you can see, he is fast, he is very tough, sometimes, and he's unpredictable. He can be going slow like he is now, and then suddenly speed up like crazy. The secret to catching the king fish is do not go fast. You want to take your time. That's 5,000 gols that you currently have on your hook. So pay attention. Focus on keeping your circle on him and keeping that circle white. You have to really focus him down. It's very important to go slowly. Do very brief clicks like this. Very brief. You want to take your time. You're not in a hurry. As you can see, even the smallest mistake can add a lot of red circle to your white circle. And you don't want that. Give your time. That red circle time to relax. Let it go all the way back down before trying it again. And I should also mention that the king version is of every type of version. In this particular case, I have the king version of the firefish. But they're all pretty much the same. They all act the same. They're all very erratic. They're all very high tension on the line, and it's very difficult to catch one of these. But as you can see, I've brought him all the way down to 0. I'm going to go ahead and finish him off. And there's the Firefish King. 5,000 gols. Now, originally, I was going to tell you all of the different values of the experience points you can get for fishing and just give you a thorough breakdown of it. But even as I'm making this video, the experience points values have changed, and they have changed multiple times throughout the development of this game, and so rather than potentially give you bad advice and bad information, I'm just going to tell you that the experience tends to scale on the same as the value. For example, a catfish that is valued at 30 gols is going to give you a pretty low experience point total, whereas the Goliath fish, which is the most difficult type of fish in the game, will give you the highest value. And then, of course, the king versions of every fish are going to give you the absolute most experience of all. Other than that, I really don't want to give you bad information and mislead you at all, but frankly, nobody's going to be power leveling with fishing anyway, so experience points is kind of meaningless. So where are each of these fishing spots, and what fish are in each one? Let's go over them one by one. Bear in mind that the fish that I'm going to mention at each one of these fishing spots are both regular and emperor and potentially king versions of these fish. This is the Bassanio Falls fishing spot, located right over here on your map. At this location, you can fish for golden salmon and Goliath. This is the Portia River fishing spot, and it's located right here on your map. The fish you find in this location are catfish and frogfish. This is the Portia Harbor fishing spot, located right over here on your map. The fish you find in Portia Harbor is golden salmon and bubblefish. This is the Western Beach fishing spot, located right over here on your map. You can catch bannerfish, firefish, and lanternfish at this spot. This is the Amber Island fishing spot, located right here on your map. The fish you find here are koi fish, bannerfish, and blue mackerel. This is the Collapsed Wasteland fishing spot, located right here on your map. The fish you catch here are catfish, bladefish, and wisefish. The Starlight Island fishing spot is a little unique. You'll first need to come to the Portia Harbor, right down here. And bear in mind, this is a late game area. You'll need to come over here, and you'll need to travel to Starlight Island. Once you've done so, you're going to take an immediate right once you get there. And you're going to travel over to this little clump of trees here. It's kind of hard to see, but it's right there. The fish you can catch at Starlight Island are gladiator fish and koi fish. This is the Eufaula Desert Oasis fishing spot here, and it's located over here on your map. The fish that you can find here are golden salmon, wisefish, and gladiator fish. And finally, this is the Somber Marsh fishing spot, and it's located up here on your map. This location has lanternfish, bubblefish, and frogfish. You might be asking yourself, where do I get bait in this game? After all, you can't go fishing without your caterpillars. Well, places like this, the herbs and other plants that you may gather throughout Portia, all have a chance of getting caterpillars when you gather them up and harvest them. There's no guarantee that you'll find any caterpillars in these particular plants anywhere in Portia, but there's always a chance that there will be one. But bear in mind, this is the slowest and probably the least reliable way to get caterpillars. There's a much better way. And that's here at Sophie's Ranch. Inside Sophie's Ranch, you can find the farm store, which has all the caterpillars you could possibly want. Right here. You can buy up to 999 at a time, a full stack. And an entire full stack can cost roughly about 4,000. Now, the market price is much lower right now, so it's down to 3. But the typical market price is closer to 4 per, and it can be as high as 5 and even 6 depending on market price. But typically speaking, you can buy a huge stack of caterpillars, and it's relatively inexpensive. Of course, you don't need 999 caterpillars to go fishing, but it never hurts. It's not like they go bad. Finally, let's go over the values of each type of fish, starting from the least valuable to the most valuable. Bear in mind that these are the base value of the fish and don't take into account market value or skills. The values I'm going to give you are for normal, regular fish. Any Emperor versions of these fish are worth double the amount, so multiply it by 2. And all King versions of these fish are worth 5,000 gols, regardless of type. Starting with the least valuable fish, we have the golden salmon, catfish, and bannerfish, each worth 30 gols apiece. Secondly would be the koi fish at 40 gols apiece. Next comes the firefish at 45 gols. Then the bladefish at 60. Frogfish at 75. Lanternfish at 90. Bubblefish at 100. The blue mackerel at 180. Gladiator fish at 280, wise fish at 320, and finally the Goliath at 350 gols each. And that should pretty much cover everything that you need to know about fishing. If you have any comments or you have any suggestions for me, please leave them down in the comment section below. I would truly appreciate any and all advice that you may have to be able to make this experience better for everyone. And that's going to do it for this particular tips and tricks video. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, do the liking and the subscribing and the commenting down below. You guys are amazing fans as usual. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, everyone, always remember that anyone can be a mouse that roars, but it takes someone special to be a lion that squeaks. So embrace your inner lion and squeak on, and go catch some fish. What do you think, tinfoil? Let's get out of here. Been fishing too much today.